Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is a Dabi X mail listener one shot that is actually going to be a few parts. It's just something fun, something different to mix up the vibe. It's slightly zesty, but nothing too much so that YouTube approves of it. But obviously, it's a mail X mail. So if you're not into that kind of thing, then consider this your warning and maybe head on out to another of my stories. But if you're interested so far, then stay tuned. As with my other male listener, I refer to you in male form as Yin, not Yin. Yin I use for my female listeners, and Yin is how I pronounce it for the males, just so I can slip into a more masculine persona and be present in the recording. So without further ado, this one is called Defier. Enjoy! Oi, you mumbled as you kept your phone up to your face, lounging back in your bed in the makeshift hideout of the League of Villains. You had become a member only just recently, but you had already caused more than a stir in this neighbourhood. Dabi grunted in reply from the bed across the way from yours. You and Mr. Mischief shared a room together. When does Krusty the Krab Villain Edition get back? You asked your roomie and crush. Handjob, Dabi asked in his usual bored tone. Yeah, you smirked, trying not to laugh at Dabi's nickname for your supposed leader of the group. Dunno, why? He asked. Got an idea, you said in your mischievous voice, lowering your phone a little so that you could look at Dabi over the top of it. He had his head turned to look up at the roof, but his cold blue eyes were locked onto yours from the corners of his eyes, and for a second you had to catch yourself there. That was a look. I'm listening, he said as his top lip curled slightly into a mischievous smirk, pulling ever so slightly on his purple scarring. Clingwrap, across the open door, you said, and Dabi snorted with amusement. He's gonna be hella pissed. I'm in, he said as he sat up and swung his legs off the bed to face you. Might die, you added as you turned your phone screen off and sat up to mirror how he was sitting across from you. Sounds festive, Dabi replied as he stood up. Have we even got clingwrap in this hellhole? Maybe. Won't know until we check the kitchen. Could probably use some aluminium foil. Musty Dusty can't even see past his own hand, so he'd probably still fall for the trick, you mused, walking out of the room with Dabi following behind, hands in pocket. You've got a name for every occasion, Dabi mused dryly as he followed you. Gotta keep it interesting. Don't want the old decay ole to think I've lost my touch, you replied, reaching the end of the hall and descending the stairs to the kitchen. You entered first into the darkness while Dabi flicked the light on behind you. Let there be light, you mused, looking back over your shoulder at him. His piercing blue eyes watched you, half-lidded as he smirked, one hand resting up the side of the doorframe. Call me God from now on, he said, and your brain spasmed on you. Bro, you have no idea how much I want to be on my knees worshipping you, but okay. You thirsted internally, keeping your cool on the outside as you let the search for the clingwrap continue. Dabi watched you for a bit and then sauntered over to help. Found any? He asked as he came up beside you. I found my last brain cell in here, but so far no clingwrap, you commented as you pushed things around. You still have a final brain cell. Lucky you. Mine escaped from my ears last night when Shigaraki cracked it and went on his rant. I don't even remember what he said. Dabi replied. Well, you said with a smirk, finally finding a roll of the clingwrap and pulling it out of the drawer. We can bring Happy Clappy down a peg or two by mushing his face into this wrap, and maybe a brain cell might come back to you. Yeah, well, if emo teen screams threats at me, I'm sure my brain cell will come back. They love that shiz, Dabi said, closing the drawer for you while you snorted at his comment, and then you both headed out of the kitchen and back up the stairs to find a suitable place to set up your prank. After wandering around the place for a bit, you finally settled on the first entrance once you had come through the front door when entering the house. You and Dabi assumed it had been the old doorway until the house had been extended a bit and the front door had been moved further out. How are we going to stick it here? You asked him as you measured the width of the door frame. Yeah, I got duct tape. Got some in the room, Dabi replied casually. You stopped what you were doing and looked at him. You got duct tape in the room? I know I haven't known about this. Should I be worried? You teased. It only hurts for a second, and then it feels good after that, Dabi said lowly, his hormone-charged comment making you groan internally. If only he knew, you mused without letting your inner thoughts show on your face. Because it took a while for you to reply to that comment, Dabi smirked and let a huff of air out of his nostrils. What? No comeback? Now you're making me think you want that, Dabi teased lightly. You're about to clap back, but noise outside the house drew your attention. Get it. You can duct tape me to the ceiling fan later. We've got Krusty Muppet to catch, he said. You didn't need to say it twice as Dabi was gone, sprinting down the hall before coming back with the all-important duct tape in hand. Never seen you move so fast, you mused, taking the duct tape from him as he reached for the cling wrap and held it up across the doorframe. When it comes to pranks against the lipless wonder, I can break the sound barrier, Dabi replied, and you snorted as you got to work. It's amazing how fast you and he could work together when it came to pranks. That lost brain cell of Darby's must have come back and combined with yours because you didn't need to talk very much. You just both knew exactly what to do, and in no time the cling wrap was up across the door, about face height, and ready for somebody to walk straight into it. There had been a bit of banter about how tall Shigaraki actually was, and Dabi had claimed he suspected the league leader was actually two children in a trench coat, one standing on top of the other's shoulders, so they should put 2 lines of cling wrap across the door, one at face height and one at knee height, just in case. But finally it was completed, and then all there was left to do was wait for the glorious return of Shigaroni. How long do you think he'll be? You asked Dabi as you both leaned up against the walls in the hall, standing facing each other. Dabi shrugged. Dunno. Should we get snacks? Yeah, you nodded, pushing off the wall with your foot. Wait, we both can't go. What if he turns up? One of us has to film it at least so the other can see it. Dabi didn't say anything, just put his fist out for you to bump it, and then pulled his phone from his pocket. See, this is why you're the man, he said, and even though it was a throwaway comment, it really made you happy. Popcorn? You asked after bumping his fist with your own. Of course. What else do you eat during entertainment? Dabi snorted with a smirk. Comedy of the century. You replied as you turned and headed off down the hall. Yeah, exactly. You heard Dabi reply. You actually were quite worried that Shigs was going to turn up in your absence, but thankfully you got the popcorn ready and managed to get back up the stairs and into the hall before anything happened. All set? You asked Dabi as you handed him a bowl of popcorn. Yeah, loaded. Dabi replied, taking the bowl from you with a wink. Your stomach flipped, but you kept it cool on the outside, and you both heard the voice of Shigaraki outside. Places, everyone, Dabi said mischievously, another smirk pulling at his gnarled skin. You donned your best innocent face when the door was opened and in walked Shigaraki. What are you doing? He started to say, but his words suddenly became muffled as his face was mashed into the taut plastic that spanned the doorway. Mesmerised and elated that your prank had succeeded, you hadn't even thought to look at Dabi, but the sound of a camera clicking a picture from a phone piqued your interest, and you looked across just in time to see your accomplice put his phone back in his pocket. Sorry, what'd you say? Dabi asked calmly to the highly confused Shigaraki, who had stepped back by now and was trying to work out what had just happened. You burst out laughing, and Shigaraki looked at you with his one visible eye from under his shaggy hair and severed hand of father. I'll kill you, he suddenly growled, and Dabi grabbed your arm. Whoop, show's over, your crush laughed, pulling you with him as he made a run for it. Shigaraki ducked under the cling wrap, but then copped a face full of popcorn as Dabi had lobbed his to buy you both some much-needed time, but had just yeet the contents and not the bowl along with it. Delaying the funeral, he said as you both sprinted down the hall. You were still in fits of laughter. Whether that laughter was from actually finding the situation funny, or whether the laughter was from terror at what was about to happen next, was still undetermined as you both ran for your lives, literally. Here, Dabi yelled, taking a left turn down the hall with you in hot pursuit. You got a plan? You panted out, still half laughing. Don't die, Dabi replied back, which made you laugh even harder. Shigaraki wasn't as fast as you guys, so you managed to keep a lead and run through the labyrinth of the place, slamming doors behind you to keep Shigaraki occupied. Suddenly Dabi reached back and grabbed your arm, and then yanked you into a cupboard that was in the hall, taking his empty popcorn bowl and yeeting it down the hall before closing you both inside the cupboard. A few seconds later you heard Shigaraki charge past, obviously thinking the sound of the bowl hitting the wall was you both still running. As his footsteps disappeared into the distance, you let out a sigh of relief, panting and huffing as your bodies tried to catch up on the oxygen that they had lost. That was fun, you joked to Dabi, who you now realised was caging you in with both hands either side of your head. I'll be honest. This was my plan from the very beginning, to get you alone, he said through heavy breaths. Isn't that a long con? You mused. If it means that I'm in the closet with you, then I'll do it, he replied, and suddenly you felt like he was being serious. Your face neutralised as sudden gay panic set in. We're both in the closet, Dabi said lowly, and you knew exactly what he was talking about now. Are we? You tried to play defensive. I can read you like a book, Wyan, Dabi said again lowly, glancing at your lips, which made you bite it longingly. If we survive this, I'll take it as a sign, Dabi then said cryptically, reaching for the closet door and opening it to peek out. Come on, we've got to get out of here, he added, taking your arm in his to pull you with him. And that's the end for now, but that is not the actual end. Part 2 will be up next week, same time that the one-shots are usually up. I used to say one-shot Wednesdays, and everyone was like, why are you saying Wednesday? It's Tuesday. Yes, I know, time zones have made it all kind of weird. So next week, same time as whatever this time was, the next part will be up, so I'll see you then.